Hello, and welcome back to the Queen City Guitar Shop. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the guitar that I'm currently constructing and introduce you to my new shop assistant, Bazooki. If you saw the last video I made, then you saw me bending the sides for this guitar. And if you haven't, you should check it out if you're interested. The link should pop up. I think I mentioned in that video that this guitar was going to be a little bit of a divergence design-wise for me in multiple ways. In this video I want to highlight the change I'm making to how the neck joins with the body of the guitar. I'm going to make this guitar a cantilever neck or an elevated fretboard. Sometimes people use the two interchangeably. The basic idea being that rather than having the neck and the body come together and the fretboard shoot across the top and be glued down to the top, a cantilever neck is going to have the neck and the body join, and the top and the fretboard extension are independent of each other. It's often done by raising the fretboard above the top of the guitar. I've been interested in cantilever guitars for a number of years, but I think I finally decided that I had to build one after reading an article in the Guild of American Luthiers publication by Josiah Young and Tim Olson, detailing the design process that Josiah makes the necks for her cantilever guitars. And they are not only cantilevered, but there's a slight twist to make the playing easier as you move up the fretboard. I'm not going to incorporate the twist in this guitar, but I am going to use the basic process as an outline for making my neck. And I would suggest checking out the article. It's the summer of 2019 issue, and just checking out GAL if you're unfamiliar with their publication and their work. They're a pretty cool organization, and I enjoy reading their quarterly publication a lot. So, as I've said, I've been interested in cantilevers for a long time. I think that there's some definite advantages to the construction and to the end product in incorporating the design. So as I said, it's a fretboard extension that's independent of the body. There's multiple ways of doing this, but the basic advantage is that that extension is independent of the body. So one problem with acoustic guitars is the string tension will tend to fold them up, and at that joint where the fretboard is glued onto the top, you get a bump as it sort of levers the neck against the body. And you can, when you construct the guitar, compensate for that so that it doesn't appear immediately, but the guitar is under constant string pressure and it's going to keep folding, and eventually that's going to become a problem that has to be mitigated. But with this design, as the guitar bends a little from string tension, the whole neck will move independent of the top, and so you don't have that issue. And the other advantage related to that is that while you're not going to have that folding telegraphed into the fretboard, it's still going to occur. Pretty much every steel string you can count on needing a neck reset at some point due to that string tension folding the guitar up. And on a standard guitar with the fretboard glued down to the top, to do a neck reset so that you can reset the angle of the neck to get playable action again, you're going to have to separate that glue joint with heat and mechanical, normally like a palette knife, and that's always going to risk finish damage to the instrument. But with this design, there's no glue joint to break. There's simply two bolts that are going to go in the heel of the guitar. So you unstring the guitar, loosen the bolts, take the neck off, make the adjustments, bolt it back together. Very, very minimal risk of any damage to the instrument in disassembly. So that's a real advantage. It makes the neck reset that much easier. And every steel string guitar is going to need a neck reset at some point. So for the long-term, the longevity of the guitar, and I'd like to imagine the guitar is being played for many, many years, and this just makes it more likely that somebody will actually do a neck reset and the guitar will continue to be playable. So there's a few basic designs. There's one that incorporates the fretboard extension and some like graphite or carbon fiber reinforcement in there, so that you don't need an actual neck extension under the fretboard. But I personally, aesthetically, just don't really like that design, and I just don't like working with carbon fiber that much. Space age materials is not my thing. So then I'm going to focus on the designs that incorporate an extension of the neck that runs under the fingerboard. You need some sort of reinforcement, such as that neck extension or carbon fiber, because if you want to fret above the joint and it was just fretboard, it's not gonna be a solid. It's not going to be a solid structure, and so when you fret, the fretboard's also going to bend down, and you're not going to get as good of tone. You might get fret buzz. So the two basic designs that incorporate an extension of the neck are to change the relation of either the top or the neck. So if you have like the body of the guitar and the neck, one design is going to be to cant the neck up and angle it down so that that fretboard extension can shoot over the top. And the other design is going to be to cant the plane of the top down so that, again, the fretboard extension can shoot over the upper bout of the guitar. Both of those designs are going to fundamentally change the geometry of the strings as it crosses the top, and more importantly, as it crosses the bridge and the saddle. They're going to lessen the break angle, because the strings are going to get raised in relation to the saddle just a little bit. And the first design is also going to shoot the neck forward and angle it forward, so it's going to change how it feels when you play. And my goal for this Cantilever guitar was to make it functionally the same as a standard acoustic guitar, but with the advantages of the cantilever. So I want the playing position to be the same, and I want the break angle over the saddle to be the same, so that I don't have to make any compromises or change the tone in relation to that break angle. So I'm going to do this by taking my guitar, incorporating a compound radius in the top. So the lower bout is going to be the same radius as I always do, 30-foot spherical radius. But as it crosses the saddle, it's going to transition into a much steeper radius, somewhere around 10-foot spherical radius, but only forward of the sound hole. So you can see if I drop this camera on this guitar, you'll be able to see a little bit better as we go down. And you can see, I think from here, a little bit how at the waist, suddenly the upper bout begins to drop down. And this will mean that the string's interaction with the bridge and with the top is basically going to be the same as the standard guitar, but this dive down in the upper bout is going to give us about 7 millimeters under the fretboard, where this is, versus where it would be if it was a standard 30-foot spherical radius that I would normally do. So to make this happen, I did some pen and paper drawings to sort out everything's relation, to know how much I was going to get on a drop with a given radius. And then I went ahead and I made a very simple template, or a very simple jig that kind of goes inside the guitar. And it's simply 2 braces that are let into the sides of the guitar, just like you would do any normal brace. This one is going to just be a rise that I can have a pivot point on. And this is a rest for the third part of the template. This is radius to the 30-foot radius of the top. And then I've got a about 10-foot radius piece that pivots on here and can register off this rest. And so the idea is when I get the upper bout perfectly set up, this will pivot here it will just barely touch this 30-foot radius brace that goes across the waist, and it will also touch every point that's going to get glued to the top as I move it across the upper bout. And that way I know that it's a smooth transition. Because obviously here we're registering 30, and then the radius is increasing and increasing and increasing as I move it. It's also canted down a little bit. This is raised up above a 30-foot radius, just a little bit. It'll increase radius through the center of the guitar, and then it'll drop back down as we move over, and when we get back here, we're back at the 30-foot radius. And this made the construction a little complicated, but not too bad. Basically, I bent the rims, glued in the blocks, sanded the whole thing to a 30-foot radius as I normally would. I put in lining for the lower bout and just past the center of the waist, and made a scarf joint. 30-foot radius, sanded that down, and then I built this jig, put it in, used it to spot cut the sides down. I lined the upper bout, and glued it in with the scarf joint at the waist. I let in these braces and took them down. I didn't take any of this down to the final height. I used a little bit of tape so that I would be a little bit high. I got those down. At this point, I need to glue the extension in. I have a shelf, and it's inset into these braces. I ordinarily have a shelf like this with an extension on my guitars, but it normally ends at this first brace. But since I'm not going to have any structural support from the fretboard, and for a couple other reasons, which we'll get into later in this build, I extended it all the way to the sound hole brace and let it through these two braces. So I'm going to glue this in. I'm going to, bring this down into the actual compound radius that it needs to be using this template and planes and sandpaper. I might attach some sandpaper to the other side of this, and then I can use it for the final fit. And then it's just going to be gluing the top on as I normally would. It will brace the lower bout as I normally would, glue it on, and I'm excited to see what it's going to look like. It's not a major change, but as I said, it should free up plenty of space for the fretboard extension and to create the cantilever. It also leaves plenty of space inside for the bolts. It doesn't take too much volume out of the upper bout and the sound chamber of the guitar. And I think one advantage of this that I'm hoping it's going to have is, because this is both canted a little bit forward and also much more domed than the normal 30-foot spherical radius, it should be stronger. And of course that folding action of the strings is pushing this in and down on the top, and this upper bout should be better able to resist that force. And so I'm hoping that will result in a longer interval before this guitar actually even needs a neck reset, and then once again that it'll be an easier neck reset when it does need it. So yeah, that is what I'm doing. That is one of the changes this guitar is undergoing from my normal design. And yeah, I'll be back soon with another video about this guitar. If there's anything specific that you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments. If you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to check out more of my videos and get notified when they get published. You can check the link in the description below to see my website, see a little bit more of my finished work, and check out some of the options I have for more one-on-one and personalized guidance in guitar building. And I hope you're staying safe, healthy, and having a good start to your new year. Thanks for watching. See you next time.